There are two kinds of people that you'll encounter in this world. The one kind will tell you what you need to do and even show you how to do it. But the other kind will help you to understand why it is that you're struggling to do what it is that you already know what you should do. And that's the part that plagues most of us. Plagues me especially because in the absence of having a healthy echo chamber, a healthy sounding board, advisors that you can turn to who can nudge you in the right direction, be your critique when needed, and that sort of thing. You need to spend a lot of time figuring things out by yourself. And that's what it is that makes life so difficult. Not just for me in what it is that I'm trying to do in this work that I do, but also in life in general. And this is what people struggle with the most. And the problem is that if you don't realize that you don't have people who can help you to understand why, but you keep getting advice that tells you about how and what you must do, you end up spiraling because you keep chasing this seemingly obvious thing that you're supposed to be doing. It's like, for example, procrastination. I get a lot of people that complain to me about how it is that they seem to be procrastinating a lot and they need to deal with their procrastination. I keep telling them procrastination itself is not a thing. It's not the issue you have to worry about. Similarly with laziness, same thing. It's not about the laziness that you have to be concerned about. It's about the absence of conviction that you have to actually look at, right? And when it comes to understanding why as opposed to understanding what, the what is the easy part. What is the kind of stuff that you would go to business coaches, technical coaches, people that are domain experts about certain things. And when you go to them for that kind of domain knowledge on things, right, then you're looking for the what and the how. So if you want to know how to develop a business model, go to a business coach. If you want to learn how to restructure your business, go to a strategist. If you want to go to if you want to learn how to do a new technical skill of some sort, you go to coaches and mentors that can help you with the what and the how about it. But why you want to do that is not something they can help you with. Your why is yours. And unless you can put something tangible to that, unless you can connect with it in a meaningful way, it becomes elusive, it becomes difficult, it becomes daunting, all of those sorts of things, right? I often get people that ask me about career choices, for example. And especially for young guys or young kids coming out of school and things like that, choosing their tertiary qualifications that they want to pursue and all of that sort of thing, they're not sure what they should pursue. And that already is a red flag. All right, and I'm saying it's a red flag because it's serious enough to consider that by the time your kid has come through school, or even as an adult, you might have reached a certain point in your life. If you don't know what you want to do, it means you've been neglecting what you're passionate about. Not only what you're passionate about, but you've neglected developing a passion for anything in life beyond duty and responsibility and distraction. You know, coping with life, making it as enjoyable as you can because, you know, you have to bear it with a grin and move on kind of thing. And that is the saddest part, is that we can shove kids into schools these days, not even for 12 years anymore. Now it's more like 14 years because of the preschooling requirements that they've got before you even enter elementary school and all of that nonsense. We push them through this 12 or 14 years of rigor and discipline and beating them down into fitting in and complying and responding in the way we want them to respond and giving us the right answer, not an answer that appeals to their logic and understanding so that we can determine where they are in their grasp of the subject matter. We take them through this ridiculous system, and by the time they come out of it, they still don't know who they are and what they want to do with life. And then you throw them into the adult world, right? And then you expect this adult to understand why it's important to show up a certain way, why it's important to be emotionally available or expressive or whatever it is. And then it becomes again more rigor, more kind of like dictation about this is how life is supposed to work. This is what you must do to be a good husband, to be a good father, to be a good mother, to be a good wife, to be a good daughter, to be a good son. We just keep telling people what they need to do about the role that they need to play. And then we get concerned when we can't see healthy relationships developing, because the only time a healthy relationship develops then is if you have some sort of like mystical alignment that happens where two people just discover that, hey, we actually have so much in common. Wow. And if they don't have so much in common, they do not build that commonality, that common ground, or to build that common goal. So understanding why is the elusive part. So when you start slipping with procrastination and that sort of thing, you have to consider what is it about, and just bear with me, I'm not saying the what. What is it about what it is that you believe is important for you to do or that you know you should be doing? What is it about that that has lost value for you? That has become not worth the effort, not worth the exertion it's going to require and the sacrifice it's going to need and the resources you need to throw at it and all of that. What about it has become so lacking in value or probability of success that you just don't see the point of it? It's like, yeah, I know I should do it, but I know I always wanted to do it, but what's that but? And if you can figure out that but and you can deal with it tangibly, right? Not just deal with it like in a flimsy way, but I have to do this, and but I've got responsibilities, and but I've got these other things that I need to do, and but there's no time, and but there's no support. Do something about that. And that's where we tested for our convictions in life. We tested to see whether what we claim is important to us is truly important. So coming back to the kids that come out of school, the red flag is that when they're already in school, when they're already finding themselves developing their identity, if the only thing they focused on about developing that identity is about their social standing, their social stature, and which social groups they're part of, and who admires them, and who appreciates them, and who validates them, you're raising a stooge. You're not raising a human being. And I know it sounds harsh, but look at the world around us. Come on. Is this the best we're capable of? This is supposed to be the generation that's emerging now, the generations emerging now, from the millennials to the Gen Zs to the Gen Alphas now. The ones that are emerging in this space of hyper access to information and opportunity and all sorts of things are coming out with the least amount of purpose. We're great at raising awareness, but we're not great at doing stuff about what we're raising awareness about. That's a problem. And if we're going to still trust the schooling system and the education system and the tertiary education system and that to produce better humans, we're fooling ourselves, right? A good human, a decent human, a grounded human is one who understands why they're here, why they feel strongly about something so that they can actually exert themselves in acquiring the skills, the know-how, the understanding, the talent, whatever it is that they need to be able to achieve it. Now you're talking. Now you're talking about something that has substance. And that's the problem when we procrastinate, is that we lose the substance of why it is that we need to do something. I know I need to sort my garage out, for example. I need to sort out my workshop. I need to sort out my cupboards or whatever it is. But I'm putting it off because the value that I'm going to get from having it sorted doesn't solve the problems that are plaguing me, the things that are top of mind, that are priorities for me. And priorities are not things that's based on what's important. I need to pay the bills and all of that. No. That's the kind of stuff we do as a grudge eventually. It's like, I have to do that, so yeah, okay, we'll get it done. I have to go to work or else I'm going to be homeless or I'm going to be poverty-stricken and I won't be able to provide for my family and whatever the case is. Then we start looking at why it is we have to do it or else. And that's, again, another reason why we procrastinate on things. Unless there is a compelling reason why it is that we have to do something, it's optional. Why do we have to maintain certain relationships? They'll understand. Optional. When do I need to keep in touch with someone? People are like that these days. If we need something, then we remember them, and if we don't, that's how everyone works. This is the kind of mentality we're developing. Right, everything becomes transactional because we focus on what we have to do and what must be done and how it must be done. So it's all about compliance. It's all about fitting in. It's all about meeting a certain expectation, but it's not about understanding with conviction why something is important. So if you don't understand why you are important, and I'm not talking of boosting your ego and patting yourself on the back and all of that nonsense. No, I'm talking about there's real intrinsic, inherent importance about the fact that you exist. And if you don't know why that is, you've got a problem. Because you're going to struggle finding any reason to do anything in life. Because everything is going to be about why someone else needs to benefit or why you need to avoid a consequence. It's not going to be about why you are fired up about why that's really important. And don't confuse hobbies with passion. Sometimes your passions can be in your hobbies, and you can monetize that, and you can turn that into a successful way of life and live and a source of earning your livelihood. But for the majority of the time, your hobbies are things that are curiously interesting, whereas your passion and what it is that you want to do, that you want to leave your mark, you want to grow, you want to build, you want to be able to contribute towards it in a meaningful way so that it actually improves that domain of influence, whatever it is. That's a passion that's attached to your why, the purpose behind your life. And if you don't have that, you struggle with everything in life, because then everything will be based on what is the most demanding, pressing issue you need to deal with. And then in between all of that, you'll try to find some joy. And in between all of that, you'll try to find a breather, some breathing space. I need a break. I need a holiday. I need to just decompress. I need to unwind. Because you don't have enough passion in what it is that you're doing with your life, you need to then take a break from life. And this is not being idealistic about anything. I'm not trying to paint a pretty picture about how ideally we should live life. No. If you are not recognizing the difference between a means to an end versus what the end itself is about, and that end itself is the why, you're going to treat everything as if it's a duty and a responsibility and a compromise as well. Because then you're going to start juggling based on what is tolerable, what can I handle, what can I deal with, what can I afford to have other people be upset with me about. So then you start looking at how you're going to strike a balance there, and you think, well, when I got that balance going, okay, I'm doing well at life. But that's when you end up setting yourself up for a midlife crisis, because then you get to a midlife crisis point, and the midlife crisis point is where you start questioning. And it doesn't happen at 40. Don't fool yourself. Midlife crisis can happen anywhere between 30 and 50 or 60 even, right? Because the crisis is still the crisis. And that crisis that we have is not necessarily about the midlife. It's about the fact that we start to question, what have I done with my life? What have I got to show for the fact that I existed for so many years? What is my legacy going to be? And when you can't answer those simple questions, when you can't have a meaningful conversation with yourself, not even with someone else, just with yourself, about why it is that what you've dedicated your life to doing up until this point, and it's not whether you intended to dedicate. Don't confuse the things, right? We don't necessarily intend to dedicate our life to certain things, but now in hindsight, we look back and we think, that is what I did dedicate myself to. I did dedicate myself to my studies, to my career, to being a provider or being a nurturer, whatever it is, right? So when you take stock of life, when you reflect and you look at that, and that doesn't resonate with your sense of, is this a meaningful life? You're going to have a crisis. And that crisis is going to cause you to force yourself into a corner to make decisions about things that might be rash, might be uninformed, might be driven by an impulsiveness that isn't grounded in reality or in reason or in even resonates with your own value system. You're going to make bad decisions about what you need to do to find this purpose in your life. And that's usually where people start then making their life about themselves. I've made it about everyone else, and I've served everyone else, and I did this for everyone else, and look, where it got me, it didn't get me anyway, so now it's all about me. And all you're doing then is you're swapping one emptiness for another emptiness. Only this other emptiness is going to have more embellishments, more trophies and trinkets and all of those sorts of things. Because at that point in your life, usually when you have this crisis point, it's because you have options versus obligations, right? I actually like that. Think about it. And that's what life is about. What are the options? What are the obligations? And in between those two, there's purpose, right? Now, how you choose your obligations, even if they are obligations, if you see purpose in it, if you see the value of it, then those become willing contributions, not sacrifices that you make because you're obliged. And that's why I come back to what I always talk about when it comes to relationships, is that marriage and relationships are not about compromise. It's about contribution. It's about collaboration towards a profoundly beautiful common goal that you want to both work towards, or you're just investing in all the time, or you're just living it, whatever it is you're doing. But it's about the contribution towards that. So you willingly give up something, not because you're compromising or sacrificing, you're willingly giving it up because that's not as important as what it is that you're working towards. People get this wrong all the time. All the time. So don't think you're special if you think, hey, it doesn't apply to me. Even if you're doing okay, the first thing that will happen when you convince yourself that you're doing okay is you will become complacent. Or complacent, however you want to pronounce it. And that's the other problem. And that complacency, however you want to pronounce it, that eventually leads to the procrastination. Because I'm doing everything, I'm doing so much, I've got all of this, I don't really need something else. Why should I do that stuff that, yeah, I know it would be cool if I achieved it, it would be nice if I did it, but not today. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Maybe on the weekend, maybe when I have a break, maybe on my next holiday. And that's how life slips away, is when you keep putting things off because it just doesn't have urgency about it. It doesn't have an immediate demand for your attention. And that's when you start going from crisis to crisis to crisis, I need a break. Crisis to crisis to crisis, I need a break. That's a tedious way to live life. And it's so easy to lose yourself into that space, right? I mean, one of the things I've been grappling with lately, and the very humble following that I've got on my podcast, you'll be able to see that I haven't been as consistent with releasing episodes in the last couple of months, the last month or two. And that's because it's a combination of personal duresses and things that I had to deal with, and also at the same time, also starting to question, well, is this really having the desired kind of consequence or outcome or impact that I'm hoping for? Do I have something fresh to add to it? What is it that I want to talk about? And slowly but surely I realized that I lost my voice to the audience that I needed to connect with. And then I became so focused on wanting to connect with the audience that I actually lost the purpose in why it is that I'm doing this in the first place. So then every time I started contemplating what is my next episode going to be about, it was always with this undertone of what will be interesting? What will people connect with? What will people think is topical? And all of that nonsense. There has to be something more natural than that, right? And yes, again, if you're going into a technical domain, if your purpose behind doing something is because of technical efficiency or proficiency that you're looking to achieve in that space, like you're looking to be the best blogger, or the best vlogger, or the best podcaster, what is the purpose behind that? Why would you want to excel in that space? Is it because of the recognition you're going to get, because of the monetization opportunities, because it's going to earn you an income, your passive income that you want to get, whatever it is, fame, fortune? Understand why you're doing it. If you don't understand why you're doing it, you lose yourself to it, right? And for me, it's always been about how can I add value to the narrative that is destroying us? Let me say that again, because that can be very seriously misconstrued. I don't want to add value to the narrative that is destroying us. I want to add value to the narrative so that the narrative that's prevailing right now shifts towards a more beneficial direction, right? I can't, on the one hand, claim that I've got a problem with the way the mainstream looks at mental health, for example, or relationships, or addiction, or any number of those things, while on the other hand, I've got nothing to offer as an alternative. And that's the same thing that applies in life as well. We can criticize, we can complain, we can do whatever we want to, but if we're not offering a solution, we're part of the problem. And then all you're doing is you're adding on more noise and more fluff on top of the problem, which makes the problem itself that much more difficult to identify and resolve. So if you find yourself slipping, if you find yourself becoming lethargic or becoming kind of uninspired about life, it's because you've slipped into a rut, and the rut that you've slipped into is a rut of obligation and option. Right? And the more you look at the important stuff as option because there's no urgency about it, and you look at the obligation as sacrifice because you have to, what are you left with? Are you left with a life that you want to live? Or are you left with some spare time in which you can just like doom scroll, binge watch your series, your favorite series, because at least that's you doing that for yourself, no one's troubling you? Is the purpose of your life to avoid people being on your case? Is the purpose of your life to make sure that you don't fail at things? I don't want to fail as a parent. I don't want to fail as a single parent or as a mom or as a dad, whatever it is. That shouldn't be the purpose of your life. Purpose is something that brings a wholesomeness, a unique kind of flavor that only you are capable of bringing to those roles that you play. That's purpose. Purpose is about looking at something that has a more universal impact beyond the duty and the responsibility of your life. And if people think this is not diminishing your parental roles, being a mother, being a father, whatever it is, being a homemaker or being a provider, it's not. It's that you need to understand that those roles are there to create something greater. Those roles are not there for you to be able to raise children and get them married and they can start their own lives and be independent and be good people. No, that's not what your role is. If you achieve that, good. Alhamdulillah. That's an achievement in itself these days. But that's how low the bar is these days, right? We do the bare minimum and you're actually excelling, because the bare minimum is asking for too much from most people. So reconnect with purpose, reflect with purpose, criticize with purpose, be self-critical with purpose. Because if you're not going to do it with purpose, if you don't understand what the purpose is of doing that, if you're just looking for what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable, what is worth celebrating, what is not, if you're just looking at it from that perspective, what's the point? So now you criticize yourself, you criticize others, you criticize your job, you criticize mainstream media, you criticize politics. What then? So now we're done with the criticism. What now? You got a problem with someone, you tell them you got a problem with them, and what then? Are they supposed to miraculously just listen that because you've got a problem, they must change everything they need to change about themselves so that you don't have a problem anymore? No, that's not how life works. Similarly, if someone comes to you with a problem, if they have a problem with you, okay, you don't like the way I'm doing something, tell me why and tell me what you would like me to do instead. And if you understand my reason for doing it before you want to tell me that, then we've got a chance of having a really meaningful conversation, right? But if you're going to just come at me and tell me, well, no, you must change this, there's no purpose in that. That's just, you have an opinion and you want your opinion to prevail. And similarly, if I come to you and I just tell you, no, you stop doing that, do it like this instead. And if I don't sit down to understand why you're doing it that way in the first place and how it is that I think if you do it this way, it's going to contribute towards that goal, that outcome you were striving towards, then what am I doing? I'm just giving unsolicited advice because I want people to see how much I know and see how amazing I am and how insightful I am and all of that nonsense. No. Don't go giving unsolicited advice to people you don't have an established rapport with. It's one of the things that comes out of my train of thought, this rabbit hole that I'm on today. Don't go criticizing things unless you have valuable input on how it can be improved or why it is that the criticism is necessary to raise awareness about what it is that might be counterproductive to what it is it's trying to be that we're trying to achieve, right? So don't be what I call a deconstructionist, right? Don't deconstruct, don't break down people's ideas and people's suggestions and people's efforts to want to try and achieve things. Don't just break it down only. If you're going to break something down, be sure that you can provide an alternative to build them up or to build it up. Don't only find fault, offer solutions. Or if you're finding fault and you don't have solutions, explain why it is important to recognize that problem, that fault that you're drawing attention to, so that you can collectively work towards finding a solution, or at least let them know that it is a problem. So if you're going to keep doing this, you're going to create other problems. So just pause on that, like slow down, hold it. This is a problem. We don't know how to fix it yet, but this is a problem. So let's think about this. That's how you approach things constructively with purpose. That's when you understand the why. But if you don't understand the why, you're just going to look to force a square peg into a round hole because come hell or high water, that peg needs to get into that hole. That's a really terrible way to live life. It's an unfulfilling way, and then you look for distractions and you look for ventlets and you look for outlets and you look for all sorts of things. I haven't used that word in a long time, a ventlet. It's a word that I coined, so I'm claiming it. I coined it more than 10 years ago in one of my blog posts, so I'm late claim to it already. But a ventlet is where we need an outlet where we can vent in a safe space. The more you need that, the more you need to realize that the space in which you're operating is not healthy. The more you need to blow up without having to worry about consequences, that's a safe space, right? A safe space is not someone that's there to make you feel better about yourself. That's not a safe space. A safe space is not a space where you can just be self-deprecating or self-defeating and they must just understand why you are like that, because asking for more than that is just like, it's unkind. No, that's not a safe space. That's a detrimental space. If you're surrounding yourself with people and with things that is going to maintain where you're at, then you're not doing yourself any favors, and you're just looking for sympathy. You're not looking for support or constructive criticism or growth. You're looking for sympathy. You're looking to have your struggle recognized. And that's one of the reasons why we then procrastinate as well, because until you realize how bad I've got it and why it is that I couldn't have gotten it right the first time and why I failed at it or why it wasn't so easy and all that, I'm not going to exert myself on trying to do better, because what if I fail again? So if you understand why I failed the first time, why it was so difficult, you'll understand why it is that, oh my God, look at that. Just despite all of that difficulty, they're trying. Nah, you're not trying. Trying for what? You try to understand something that you don't know yet. You try to acquire a skill or a talent or information or knowledge or understanding. You try. But once you know how to do something and you're not doing it, you're not trying anymore. I'm not trying to be better. You either are being better or you're not. And the reason for you not being better, you need to understand that. Especially if you know how to do what you need to do to be better. It's like a simple example. If I know I'm not supposed to be smoking or drinking, I know how to stop smoking and how to stop drinking. I know how to, right? The how is simple. Just abstinence, simple. The why is abstinence so difficult is the important question. Why do I still need it? Why do I find it so difficult to cope without it? Why is it that I become so defined by my access to that habit, to that so-called addiction? And then you're starting to work with something that's more tangible, more substantial. And that's what we need to focus on. Focus on making life substantial, meaningful, purposeful. And automatically you'll develop a passion in that, because that's our innate nature. When we couple our curiosity with confidence and with purpose, automatically you'll get fired up, because it resonates. You can see why it is going to be beneficial, why it's going to be an amazing outcome, why you're going to add value, you can take things to the next level. There's going to be excellence involved. And if there's no excellence involved, and everything is about mediocrity and participation awards and about slapping everyone on the back for trying their best and all of that, there's no joy in that. That joy is very short-lived, because it's just about, we all feel good because look how awesome we are. We're trying this. No, trying is not enough. The why, the purpose, the reason why it was important to try in the first place, has that been achieved? When that is achieved, then you'll feel that fulfillment. Then you'll feel a sense of accomplishment. Then your self-esteem will be built up. It will be complemented with that. Your self-worth, your self-respect, your integrity, your credibility, all of that will have meaning, because now you've got something of substance that you believe is valuable enough for you to protect. Live with purpose. Please understand why before you want to go down the rabbit hole of how and what, and go and look for all the technical experts and all of the gurus and all of the influencers and all of the psychologists and therapists and counselors to tell you how you must live your life. You know how you want to live your life. You might just be struggling with the why about what's getting in the way of you living that life. And when you start dealing with that more effectively, more meaningfully, magic happens. And it's not some esoteric, eccentric, eclectic kind of magic that has to happen. It's genuine. You'll see the sum of the parts of everything that you put to it is just greater than what you ever thought you would achieve. I am Zaid Ismail. I'm constantly reinventing myself and trying to find my purpose, and I hope that you will find excitement and enthusiasm along the way to do the same for yourself. Because if you're not constantly reinventing, taking stock, and challenging yourself to be better than you were yesterday, if you're going to lose yourself to the despondency and the depression and anxiety that sets in from time to time, because that's how life is, then you're not doing yourself any favors and you're taking yourself for granted. Don't take yourself for granted. Own your life. Take care.